Venom officially rated PG-13, could open between 60 million and 70 million. That's the headline on this week's Movie Burner News. And joining us as always is John, and this is actually just coming off the back of the trailer that was dropped a few weeks ago in regards to the Tom Hardy portrayal of Venom. What's your thoughts on this, John? Are you surprised about the rating being a PG-13, or did you think that was probably bang on the money?
No, I think that's absolutely bang on the money, Stephen. I think we spoke about this film a few weeks to maybe even a few months back, actually. It may have been further back. And they were talking about it maybe going down a darker route. There was talk of it even being R-rated at one point. So if anything, I think this is lighter than what they were originally going for. Certainly we've seen in recent years that, and certainly more in recent years, in the last 4 or 5 years, that you can take a comic book superhero film, mesh it with some genres that you wouldn't think would mesh well, and make it a darker tone. We've seen it with the likes of Deadpool. We've seen it with the likes of Logan. They've went down the R-rated route, and it's worked very, very well. So I don't think there's any issues with it being PG-13. I think that's the perfect rating for it. It's about a villain. It's about the backstory of this villain, I believe. How he meshes with this symbiotic alien creature suit, whatever the hell it is. It's a parasitic creature that latches onto him. So it has to be dark. We have to follow this guy's plunge into madness, darkness, becoming one with this creature. And you look at that photo, Stephen, from the trailer, and it's a very dark and scary looking creature indeed. Those teeth are just hideous.
I think he looks like a melted fries cream.
Yes, he does. He looks like that melted sticky toffee pudding from back in the day, Stephen, that we all know very much about. That's a very funny story from back in the day, featuring one of my family members who stuck on for about 7 minutes in the microwave, took it out and it burnt his feet. That's what it looked like, without the eyes and the teeth. That's what the teeth looked like in the family member when it dropped on their feet. But yeah, I digress, I'm getting sidetracked here. Very, very happy with the rating. I would have liked to have seen them going down the R-rated route, but obviously they want to. This is the first film in this new Sony villain universe. I don't know what the hell they're going to call this universe, but they have to make it as widespread as they possibly can. They need to try and get it out to as many demographics as they can. See if it'll be a success with the audience, and then in future iterations they may decide to go down an even darker route. But as for the opening weekend, $60 to $70 million, that is not too bad at all. You see the latest release over in the United States, The Predator, only opening to about $20 million. So this would triple, nearly treble that performance. That'd be very successful. Whether it's right or not, whether it's accurate, I don't know, because of course we've seen Soul getting touted as opening to $200 odd million, and in the end it barely broke that, and it's cumulative gross. So these guys have got a tendency to be a little bit outlandish with their predictions. But I hope they're right, because I love Tom Hardy. I think he's a great actor. Love the guy as a man, just what he came from, troubled past, brushes with drugs, with crime and stuff when he was younger. And to see him rise up to what he is today, he's a genuinely good guy. He does a lot for his community and stuff. Just a great actor in general. And I want to see him a success in every film he's in. And I want to see this be a success as well, because this is characters that tend to get relegated to the sides. They're more peripheral to Spider-Man in a Spider-Man film. It's all about Peter Parker, Spider-Man, what he's doing. These guys come in, they don't get fleshed out at all. So this is a chance for them to flesh out these major villains, and I hope it's a success, because I want to see the likes of Dr. Octopus and even the Green Goblin and other villainous guys coming in and getting some spotlight shined on them. And who knows, we may even see them interconnect with Spider-Man at some point, although not the MCU version. But we'll get into that. I'll get into that in a minute once I've let you in, Stephen.
Yeah, you never know, John. If this is a success, you might see the same deal for this character going over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who knows? Yeah. Or we might see Spider-Man going back over to the Sonyverse or the Spidey universe or whatever they call it. I think one way or another it's going to happen anyway. Yeah. In regards to these predictions, I think it's probably about spot on for this kind of character. It's a character, unless you're not familiar with the comic book character, it's going to be very hard to identify to, unless you're a big Tom Hardy fan. And the other thing as well is that this isn't a hero we're dealing with here, it's a villain, and this is going to really set the tone on future films. I know Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is coming out very soon as well. That doesn't really need a lot of promotion. No. The Joker speaks for itself. That will be a success. I can bank on that. But you're right, these kind of level of characters are needing explored, and I think getting somebody like Tom Hardy, he's not a stranger to comic book villain, as we know. I think he'll do well in this. I think the film will do well. I think 60-70 million is a very good opening if they're right. I hope they are, because I'd like to see this character develop over a series of movies and, you know, do battle with Spider-Man. I think that'd be very interesting. Just going back to the trailer, I thought the trailer was fantastic. Those visual effects were amazing. The other thing that I kind of picked up from the dialogue from that trailer as well, I liked the fact that the Venom character referred to himself as we. So the actual
it's a very schizophrenic character, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, and I mean the character is more or less a parasite, but it's aware of its surroundings. It's aware of its you know, taking on a host as well, and still referring itself to as we. Obviously, the we being Eddie Brock and Venom. So I think those predictions, if they come true, that's good business.
Certainly, I've reading another article here, Stephen, as well, from MovieWeb, and they say, whilst the rating isn't what fans would want, the running time is perfect. And I agree, they're saying it's going to come in at around about an hour and 52 minutes long, so that's quite short for a comic book film in this day and age. I think they usually run at about 2 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes, so it's on the shorter side. I think that'll give them enough time to flesh out the backstory, and then we'll get them taking on the villainous character that's played by Riz Ahmed, Dr. Carlton Drake. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this film. I do look at the tracking of the opening weekend, and it's fluctuated anywhere from $30 to $50 million in earlier tracking reports to up to $55 to $85 million, and now it's settled down to $60 to $70 million again. So I've got to be honest with you, if you were to have asked me a couple of weeks ago what I thought this film would have opened to, I would have probably went for the $30 to $50 million mark, because it has been a bit of a mixed bag. I don't think it's been going over to fans in a hugely positive manner. I think the trailers have split them down the middle. A lot of people hate it, some people like it. I've seen them slagging hell out of the suit as well. Even the late great John Snett was taking pot shots at it, saying how the hell is this character get the Spider-Man look, the eyes and stuff, if Peter Parker's got no connection to this story whatsoever. It takes that look because it's almost mimicking Spider-Man. But you're right, Stephen, about the trailer. I actually enjoyed the trailer. I did like the dialogue, just little things like, as you said, the we. It is a very schizophrenic character. I says to you that it's almost like The Mask, in the way that Jim Carrey's The Mask, that is, in the way that it goes on the face and he takes on a completely different persona. Obviously, it's not like The Mask in the general sense. He's dancing about and going, hey, and shooting people with Tommy guns and stuff, but in the sense that it attaches itself to a victim or a person, and it imbues it with a completely different personality, and they become different. They're mixing with each other in ways that are not totally connected. I don't think that anyway. I've not read into the character, but just the general vibe of it being a symbiotic alien, it's kind of a parasitic in its manner. It gave me mass vibes without the ridiculous campiness. It's not going to have any of that. It's a darker film. But yeah, I mean, I've touched upon it, Stephen. You says yourself, we may see Peter Parker coming in at some point, but further down in this article, they do say that the Sony Studios and the executives are still leaving the options open to a potential crossover between the Sony Marvel Universe and Marvel Studios and Marvel Cinematic Universe, with eyes being on the director Ruben Fleischer's take on the alien symbiote, to see if Venom would be a character that would fit well into the MCU. They may be leaving their doors opened or their options open, but I certainly don't think Kevin Feige and the guys at Disney and Marvel will be leaving their doors opened. I don't think they will want this character in. They're doing their own thing. They've got their own plans. I don't think they'll mesh well with this. And it does open up that one little niggling doubt I have at the back of my mind about this film. If it is a success at the box office, will Sony then have their eyes on the Spider-Man character, their grubby little hands stretching out, try to whip Spider-Man back into their universe, to have him fighting these battles with their villainous universe? I hope they don't. I love Tom Holland's interpretation on the character. I think he's the best Peter Parker. I think Spider-Man 2 and Tobey Maguire playing him was still the best film, if that makes sense, but I think Tom Holland's the best interpretation of Peter Parker to date, and I want to see him remain part of the MCU. So I've got mixed feelings on this one. I don't want it to be a success to the extent where they want to take Spider-Man back, but at the same time I want to see it doing well for Tom Hardy.
Yeah, we're just going to stay on the comic book theme here, John, in regards to a report that was on Screen Rant earlier this week, and this is in regards to Nicolas Cage. He thinks that the next Superman movie should make the character more vulnerable. That's an interesting one, considering he died in the last one. I mean, you can't get any more vulnerable than being dead, I suppose. But yeah, Nicolas Cage feels that the next actor to tackle the role of Superman should bring more vulnerability to the role. Cage is not only a Superman superfan with a son named Kal-El, but also came close to portraying the Man of Steel on the big screen in Tim Burton's unrealised film Superman Lives, as we know. I don't know if Nicholas is perhaps pitching himself for this one, John. I know we did a little poll last week when the news of Henry Cavill stepping away from the role, and I've got to be honest, that third option in our poll on Twitter, a lot of people wanted Nick Cage back in the suit.
Sadly, I didn't see the option, Stephen, until I'd already clicked that it was terrible news. I would have clicked Nick Cage, just because that's the type of guy I am. I like to be different. Certainly don't want to see Nick Cage playing Superman now, sorry. Unless he gets a hair transplant like Matthew McConaughey and gets that nice slick back hair again. But not in the current vein, sorry. That Widow's Peak is just way too far up the head now for him to play Kal-El. No. But certainly he says in this article, this little statement, that there's certainly a character there that has aspects that have not yet been seen before. All the feelings of alienness, how am I going to fit into society? Maybe if I become a hero, everyone will love me, even though I'm a freak. All that stuff really wasn't tapped into with the character. He's quite vulnerable. I don't know who should do it, but best of luck to them. So he's not really saying he wants to do it because he's saying best of luck to them. But at the same time, I do seem to recall that Man of Steel did kind of a tap into that. He was feeling a little bit isolated, struggling between the call of his biological father and obviously his stepfather, played by Kevin Costner, who I can't remember the name of. So there was elements of that in there, but I can understand what he's saying. Certainly the feelings of alienness, I think I've definitely been tapped into before. Unless I'm tripping out my nut and I've been seeing things that aren't there. But the vulnerability, I suppose you could have more vulnerability in a character like Superman always, because he is such a omnipotent beast of a man. He can do everything. Christ, in Superman 4 he was rebuilding the Great Wall of China. With his eyes. He was taking female characters that he wasn't even near yet and allowing them to breathe out in space. So if we're talking about those 70s films, then certainly there could be more vulnerability. But I think, as you did say, he died in Dawn of Justice, so I don't know how much more vulnerability you could have in a character than that. But listen, I'm going to bow to the superior knowledge of Nick Cage. He's named his bloody son Kal-El. The guy also knows the character, and I presume he's seen these films and he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, he's living a life in Netflix now, making some interesting films, that's what I'll say.
Well, interesting enough, John. If one of his movies was made now, it certainly would have been more successful if rated R and released in 2018. I'm talking, of course, about Ghost Rider here. This is an article that was on IndieWire earlier this week, and it just goes to say Ghost Rider wasn't the most commercially concept, but Cage says its box office would have been better if released in the golden age of superhero movies. Nicolas Cage tried his hand, as you recall, John, at comic book stardom with 2007's Ghost Rider. The movie was a critical misfire, 23% on Rotten Tomatoes. That didn't set the box office on fire, grossing 115 million in the US against a 110 million budget. The film's disappointing returns resulted in a 5-year delay for the sequel Spirit of Vengeance, which fared even worse. If these movies were released after the likes of Iron Man and The Dark Knight, Nicolas Cage reckons it would have fared much better if it was released, specifically for today's audiences. I've got to disagree with Nicolas Cage here. I don't think I know he's a big comic book fan, and I know that he's probably got a bit more say in this than I should have. But I just didn't think. I remember seeing Ghost Rider. I didn't think it was a good film. I don't think the character was that great either. I don't think it really mattered when it was released. He's right in one sense, that there's obviously this fandom that's came about that sort of surpassed the original comic book fans as well. It's brought new audiences in, and this all kicked off with 2000 and 5's Batman Begins. I think that's where it really started. This was 2 years prior to Ghost Rider, so that's where I'm kind of disagreeing with Nicolas Cage in this matter, because I know that Batman is obviously a character that sells itself anyway, compared to Ghost Rider, but I don't think the period has got anything to do with it. No. It has got to do with the character itself. I don't think this character would have done as well in this period in the fandom.
Absolutely not.
But that's just my opinion. What's your thoughts, John?
No, I agree. The character of Ghost Rider, he's right what he says. It is a very complex character with a complex tale. Obviously, sold his soul to Satan, as he does say later on in the article. And to try and force that into a PG-13 rating, it's a very difficult thing to sell a character and a story like that to children and a wider range of demographics. We were just speaking about it with Venom. I think there's ways around it though, that you can make it dark enough and still give it to a wider audience without diluting the story of the character any. Certainly I remember the original Ghost Rider. I don't think I seen the sequel because I wasn't impressed with it, and it wasn't great. And you look at the numbers and they really back that up. 23% Rotten Tomato score. It's not the be all and end all, but certainly box office as well, as you did say. Only grossed $115 million in the US against a $110 million budget. That's a flop in any man's terms. And even the sequel didn't do much better. He's saying you begin to see the genius of the sequel, because they made $250 million off of $50 million. Even then, that ain't great. That's not like today's superhero films. But you will see the likes of Black Panther earning well over $1 billion. Even sequels like Ant-Man, which we're saying, Ant-Man and the Wasp, which we're saying isn't that great a success, it still earned about $400 million. So it's way above and beyond that. And I think that's because the storytelling and what they're doing today is different. They're taking different genres. Logan was a western. You've got different styles and the way they're putting them in. We've got Taika Waititi bringing his unique blend. And the way they're introducing these characters into established cinematic universes as well, it just works. If you then take a character like Ghost Rider on his own and try and put him into today's society, I don't think it would work. I really don't. Because you've got all the cinematic universes, you've got standalone stories like Deadpool doing their thing. It would really need to be in the form of a Deadpool, and I think we've seen it with various other films. It just gets something special about it that just made it work. That special thing being Ryan Reynolds and just the humour. I don't know how they would mesh this film in today's society and make it work. If they went really dark and made it R-rated, I suppose it may have some niche market that would pay off with, but I don't think it would be any more successful in today's society than it would have been back then. And it's because of the character, Stephen. A guy in a motorbike gets sold his souls. He's got a limited scope for what they can do.
Yeah, it certainly has, John. We're just talking about these two articles. I both disagreed with Nicolas Cage in both of the articles, but one thing that I will say is I do want to see Nicolas Cage back in a comic book film, because I think that's where he really thrives. We saw it in Kick-Ass. I thought he was amazing as Big Daddy. His chemistry with Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl was amazing. They really were like father and daughter. And he's got a real passion for it. I think I read somewhere his portrayal of Big Daddy was based on Adam West's Batman. His line delivery was very similar to Adam West's. As you said, he was nearly there as Superman as well, back in the mid-90s, the Kevin Smith film. I would have loved to have, sorry, not the Kevin Smith, the Tim Burton film. I think it was written by Kevin Smith. I would have been very interested to see that take on it. Whether or not it would have been a success is debatable. Those early makeup tests weren't doing it any favours, but I think, I think they were very early makeup tests.
It was the chest hair or the chest.
It probably was. Yeah. I think the costume, I think we actually did see another version of that costume. It looked a bit more impressive, but nevertheless, you can't fault the guy's passion for comic book. That's why he does make some valid points in both these articles. And I just hope we get to see Nicolas Cage in a comic book film, whether that be MCU or DCEU, whatever. I don't care. I just want to see the guy. I think he deserves it. I was happy to see Michael Keaton return to the genre in the Spider-Man Homecoming film. Thought he was amazing in that. And I think the same kind of revival for Nicolas Cage could be on the books if he's used in the correct manner.
Well, it could be on the book, Stephen, because he's actually in a film which I actually think is very interesting looking, in Mandy, which this article does mention at the bottom. It looks very, very intriguing indeed. So you may be back up in the rise again to prominence. But certainly you can't deny the guy's credentials for being a comic book fan. He says he could foresee superhero films dominating today's market even back in the day, because he realised the technology was progressing, and that when it did get to a certain level, they'd be able to take these stories and make them a real cinematic force. And he was right, so fair play to him. I also agree about the Walt Disney comment as well, taking the story of Faust and making that an animated feature. That would have worked. But I digress. We're going to move on, and we're continuing on this superhero theme, Stephen. It's all about Jon Hamm on the possibility of playing Batman. He says that he'd probably fit the suit. I'd love to see this guy playing Batman. What's your thoughts on that, Stephen?
This came in from Collider, John, earlier this week. Jon Hamm. Yeah, I mean, basically he's saying he'd probably fit the suit. I'd have to work out a lot, which I don't love. Who does? And he says, but I'm sure there's an interesting version of that being out there. And if they wanted to tap me on the shoulder and ask me to do it, why not? As far as I'm concerned, Ben Affleck's still Batman. So I know that there's a lot of talk about him stepping away as well, but that's not been confirmed yet, so it's a bit early doors in regards to who would replace him. I think more of the talk at the minute is who's going to be the new Man of Steel. But in regards to Jon Hamm, I think he's a great actor. I've enjoyed most of his films that I've seen, and I think he'd be very keen, just going on this article, I think he'd be very keen on taking on the role. He's certainly got the look of Bruce Wayne, and I think it's something that it'd be very interesting to see. Yeah,
I'd love to see him. I loved him in Mad Men. I think he's definitely got the looks for it. He's got the physique for it. He's definitely got the acting range for it. And he says in this article that he is a big fan of comic books. He always has been. Since he was 9 or younger, he's been reading comic books, so he's pretty knowledgeable about them. He likes the genre, and he likes when they're done well. He saw Black Panther and he was like, this movie's great. A friend of mine is a showrunner on Legion, which I watched last night. It's great. So this is a guy who's got the knowledge of it. I don't know if he's quite as knowledgeable as Ben Affleck indeed, because that guy's got a Batcave in his house apparently. He's really knowledgeable about the character of Batman, and I just find it sad, even though I would like to see someone like this maybe get a shot at playing Batman at some point in the future. I think it's just sad that Ben Affleck isn't going to get the chance to tell that story that he had in mind for the Batman film, which apparently the script was incredible. This is a guy that's passionate about the character. He loves it. He knows its inner workings, and I just think he's a great Bruce Wayne as well. I think he's one of the best to date. So to see him potentially having to step away because of all this bickering and infighting at Warner Brothers and DC, I think it's just sad, even in the light of someone like this maybe stepping into it. And again, this is just speculation. This is just this guy saying in an interview that he would love to possibly play the character at some point. But certainly he's got that jawline, he's got the mouth for it, and he's got the eyes for it. Black those eyes up, put a bat hat on him, put a bat cape on him, or a mask on him and a cape on him, and you're there, man. He's certainly got the hairline as well to play Bruce Wayne as well, and he's got previous for playing these whack jobs as well, so it would work.
Yeah, I think he's 47 now. And the thing is, this is an interesting period we're living in regards to the character Bruce Wayne, because I think a lot of people, it wasn't really spoken about when Ben Affleck was announced that he would be portraying an older version of the character that's definitely been covered in the comics, but on film it hasn't. It was always I would say probably late 20s to early 30s Bruce Wayne. And I know that the actor Jon Hamm, I think he would have did well to portray this late era of the character that Ben Affleck was going for. Certainly those early scenes in Batman v Superman, you could see right away he was a more aged Bruce Wayne. He already had the life of Batman before we see him on screen. There's a lot of references of his past and his losses as well. And I think it's just the timing as well. I know I think he was asked a question, so this is basically a rumoured casting choice, if you like. And it certainly wouldn't have been someone that was sprung to my mind right away, but when I read this article, I could fully see him playing the role of Bruce Wayne, and I think he would have done a good job, or he might do a good job if the rumours are true. Yeah,
I mean, if it is to be, then it'll be, Stephen. It's certainly one, like you says, it didn't spring to mind immediately, but now seeing some photos of him, as we just looked at a photo not long ago, Stephen, of him standing with a suit on, Venom with the bow tie, and he just reeked of Bruce Wayne. This little tweet in another article that I'm reading from Boss Logic on Twitter, he's superimposed him into the Batcave. He's sitting looking very broodingly ahead with Alfred standing next to him in the back suit behind Alfred, and my God, it looks good. But certainly one guy that I wouldn't like to see playing Bruce Wayne or Batman is Kit Harington, who apparently in this article is the latest name to be thrown into the ring after reports came out last week or the week before that he could be potentially starring in the Batman. Apparently his representatives denied the rumours, and I'm glad they did, because he's way too small. He's 5'7", man. It's too small. Val Kilmer get hammered for playing Batman because he was a little bit smallish at 5'11". Christ, Michael Keaton at 5'9"ish get hammered. This guy's smaller again. Jon Hamm, 6'1", definitely works. And you just combine that physique, as he spoke about, he could fit into the suit, the knowledge of a character, the good fit in terms of looks, and also what he says in that article from Collide as well at the end, where he says that he loves the way they're delving into these characters now and fleshing them onto the screen the way they were in the comics. He says that it's not just straightforward action, it's not just straightforward good guys and bad guys and boobs up to here and crazy capes and superpowers and stuff. It's the characters and how they're portrayed, how they're brought to life with some kind of artistry and elegance that can really elevate them. I completely agree with that. I love what they're doing with these characters now, as I did say previously again and again. What they've done with Logan going in a different direction, what they're doing with Deadpool going in a different direction. They're fleshing the comic book genre up now. I've seen people saying that we'd have comic book overload. I can't remember the exact phrase where people would get bored with it, but they're not, because they're taking these comic book stories, films, and they're meshing them with different genres to freshen it up. And this is certainly, and just taking the characters in general and portraying them the way they were portrayed in the comics, complex characters, not just action and superficial. But I digress. I'd love to see this guy getting a shot if indeed Ben Affleck does step away. It's a good fit for me.
Certainly is, John. I totally agree with you there. And we're just going to move on to our final piece of news this week here on Movie Burner News. And we're actually stepping away from the comic book genre finally.
Maybe we should get a comic book show on the go, Stephen, because we can talk about it for hours, man.
Certainly can, John. This is coming in from Variety, and we're actually getting back to talking about Halloween here. We spoke about this last week. This is actually the original Halloween we're going to talk about this week, and it's going to be returning to theatres in the build up to the release of the reboot, if you like. John Carpenter's original Halloween is returning to theatres beginning on 27th of September to more than 1,000 screens. I do hope some of those screens are here in the UK, because I think this is a film. I said last week, John, I never got the chance to see any of these Halloween films in the cinema. Those original ones, I certainly could have went along and saw the Rob Zombie ones, which I didn't bother doing. But that original one and the sequel Halloween 2, I would have loved to have saw in the cinema, because I said last week the experience of seeing a horror movie in a cinema is something totally different to watching it on home release. I went to see, it wasn't a great film, the Hills of Eyes remake, I think maybe in the early 2000s. It wasn't the best film, but going to see it in the cinema was a totally different experience to seeing it on DVD. And especially a movie as iconic as Halloween, that haunting, chilling theme from John Carpenter, the character of the Shape, as he was called in this film. Michael Myers is just an iconic horror villain, and then you've got the brilliant Jamie Lee Curtis. She was absolutely amazing in this film. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the reboot version as well, but I'd love to see this one. I hope somewhere down the line we're going to see this in UK cinemas. Yeah,
so they are. I actually did an article, Stephen, on the Movie Burner website just a week or so ago where I discussed that they are re-releasing and restoring several of John Carpenter's classic films. The likes of Escape from New York, The Fog, Princess of Darkness and They Live, they're all getting re-released in select theatres for select runs between October 26 through to November. So this is just another addition to this celebration of John Carpenter coming up to Halloween. The guy's going on a tour here as well. He's doing his anthology tour, I believe it is, in the United Kingdom and Europe throughout this time. So it's going to be a great celebration of the man and his work and just Halloween in general, because we've obviously got the sequel, completely ignoring all the other crap sequels in between the original and this, and taking the story straight from that original film. And that's why I think this is great as well, getting to see this film in the theatres, having a run. And as the chap does say in the article, I don't know who it is, believe it may be Dean Cundy. It'd be great. No, it's actually Carpenter, sorry. It's Carpenter himself. I'm reading the article right now. Having both back in the theatres this fall is remarkable, and he comments on how it would be great to see them playing back to back in the theatres and in the box office, so that'd be amazing. I don't think it'll trouble the top 10 over here, sadly, but who knows, we may get a secret cinema release, Stephen.
Well, Jordan, there's actually some hope here. I've just pulled this up on movieweb.com, this quote here. Spetticast is responsible for these screenings of Halloween, which are taking place in various locations all around the US, Australia, Canada, Germany and the UK. Hey. So we'll have to look out for this, Jordan, and see where we can grab a viewing of this, because I think this is going to be I think it's a great event for that original movie. This is going to be late October here, so it'll be very interesting to see that original one just before we go and see the new one, the Danny McBride one, David Gordon Green movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing the new one anyway, but it's always good to look back. We've went to see a few classic films in the cinema. It was one of the things that just, you know, I don't really want to get into the Star Wars stuff here because we try and save that for the Force Friday show, but those special editions, you can say what you want about what was in them and what was necessary to be in them as well. One thing that you can take out of it was that I was born in 1976, so I totally missed the cinematic releases of the original trilogy. Got my chance when the special editions came out. I went to see Star Wars A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, all special editions it might have been, but it was still good to see Star Wars in the cinema for the very first time. I thought it was an amazing experience that stayed with me to this day. We also, I think it was in 2010, for the 25th anniversary of Back to the Future, we went to see it in the cinema.
It was fantastic.
That was amazing. It was just good. We've seen the film countless times before it, but just to see it in the cinema was a different experience. And also, I think we went to see The Phantom Menace in 3D.
Yeah, we did,
and that was a great experience. Not a great film, but for visuals it was amazing. We didn't get to see any of the other Star Wars films getting made into 3D because that was when the Disney takeover took place and they scrapped the idea, which was a shame because I felt the 3D effect on that movie was quite successful. But just getting back to my point is, getting to see classic films in the cinema is a reward for the fans, because a lot of fans are new fans, new generation, didn't get the chance to see these movies. I'm one of them. I didn't get to see the original Halloween. It just came out in 78. I was only 2. No chance I was going to see that when I was 2-year-old. I think I'd have been in an asylum with Michael Myers, you know, at this point. If I saw that when I was 2 years old, it certainly would have affected me.
I've slept again, Stephen.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's just great that they're doing this. I think it's a great honour to John Carpenter as well as a filmmaker, and it's just good to see the man back in the limelight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't add much more to that. You've absolutely nailed it there, Stephen. It's a great celebration of a great director and a great man. And you're right about the cinematic experience of going to see these classic films. There's nothing like going to the cinema to watch a film. That's what it's made for. It goes back to what we were speaking about last week with Netflix and the National Theatre Association, I think, NATO or something it was called. The guy saying that there's a place for both, but they want to bring up cinematic, the standard of cinema, and that fundamentally there is nothing like going to see a film on the big screen. And he's absolutely right. And you're also right what you said earlier, Stephen, about the way horrors are best experienced in a cinema as well. There's nothing like the darkness. It just heightens senses and it brings a whole level of dread and fear and trepidation to the experience of watching a film. Halloween is just one of the pinnacles of that genre. So to see that original and then go and watch the other film coming out, that would be amazing for me. And I really can't wait until then. But I digress. That is all we've got for this week's episode of Movie Burner News. We'd just like to thank you for listening to us once again, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Movie Burner blog rundown.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.